Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is Have Roots Will Travel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last few years, I have been focusing my attention on mes filles du roi, king's daughters, that are just so much a part of French Canadian history. There are over 700 of these ladies that came across. We are today doing episode 238. We have come such a long way. We still have a long way to go. But before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know: subscribe, like, and notify. The next three are ways to help the channel itself grow: Coffee and Patreon, or standalone platforms where you can contribute anywhere from $1 to $25 and more. And we also have my PayPal button that you can press on my Have Roots Will Travel website and contribute as well. So thank you to all of you who have supported me thus far. Truly appreciate any and all feedback, support, comments. Really, I'm so grateful to all of you. We're going to be looking at episode 238, Madeleine. She is a viewer request, and I did not have her in any of my files. So it was a pleasure to get to know Madeleine. Let's get to know her a little bit better. Madeleine was born in 1652 in Paris, France. Her parents were Michel Selle and Jeanne Caston. She would have been born in the area of Paris known as the 3rd arrondissement, as you can see on the map on your bottom left. Remember that Paris is laid out in circles, or arrondissements. This arrondissement is found on the right bank of the river Seine. It's often referred to as temple or temple. This particular arrondissement dates back to the Middle Ages and is the second smallest of Paris's sections or arrondissements. Among notable facts about this sector is that it's here where you can find the oldest surviving private house in Paris, built in 1407. Imagine that house stood when Madeleine was a small child. And I love to think of that, and I must one day see this house. There's also an ancient Jewish section which dates back to the 13th century, and it's an important part of the Jewish history of Paris. The church where she would have been baptized was Saint-Nicolas des Champs, and that dates from the 12th century. The church that is currently there was built between 1420 and 1480, was enlarged in the 16th and early 17th centuries. Just imagine the history that this church could have seen. And here at the bottom of your screen is a picture of what the 3rd arrondissement looks like. It's very cobblestone and all of that, very old and very quaint. Upon her father's death, she left for New France with £200 in her dowry. She actually grabbed the last ticket out of France, l'Espérance, which means the hope. September 3rd, 1673 was the last ship that brought any filles du roi. So talk about being on that last boat. She was there. The groom that she selected and who selected her, his name was Louis Oriot, and he was born in 1642 in Poitiers, France. His parents were Charles Oriot and Marie Bourdieu. Now, the Church of Saint-Benoît is what I have ascertained would have been the church that he would have been baptized in. So we can see the picture of that church here. Poitiers is a city on the Claine River in western central France. It's a commune and the capital of the Vienne department. You can see it's part of the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region. And you can see the department, or county, if you want to look at it like that. And Poitiers is a very important city. It had a population as of 2017 of about 88,000 people. Eleanor of Aquitaine frequently resided in the town, which she embellished and fortified, and in 1199 entrusted with communal rights. In 1152, she had married the future King Henry II of England at the Poitiers Cathedral. This place is so steeped with history. It goes all the way back to the Gauls, and it rose to prominence as the former capital of Poitou, which was an ancient province. A pivotal turning point came in 732 AD when somewhere near Poitiers, the cavalry of Charles Martel defeated the Muslim forces, and thus ending Muslim attempts to conquer France. Until the Revolution, this sublimely beautiful city was known as the town of 100 bell towers. The remarkable churches that remain today are in part a legacy of Eleanor of Aquitaine's financial support. Just amazing. Marie-Madeleine and Louis were married on September 21st, 1673 at Lauzon, at the small chapel there. I was able to find this particular picture, if you will, and I've loaded, and it is an illustration, if you will, of the church at Lauzon, and I wanted to share it with you, so I have the website, so you can click on that link. The family would settle at Beaumont, Cap Saint-Claude. You can see the circle here, how close it is to Ile d'Orléans, and some have said that Ile d'Orléans was the mother of Beaumont, because the people that went to Beaumont actually did not have a church and had to take a canoe to go to church services at the beginning. So there was a lot of interaction. 1672, the intendant Jean Tannot granted Charles Couillard the seigneurie of Beaumont from the east of the village, and François Bissot the seigneurie of Vincennes, the west of the town. So they was kind of split up. I was fortunate enough to find this in the archives.org, and I've listed the web address for you. And this says, the 2nd of May, 1676, concession à Louis Oriot, 3 arpents de terre de front sur le grand fleuve de Saint-Henri et 40 de profondeur. So this says that there was a land grant given to Louis Oriot, and he received probably 1 to 2 acres of land at the front of the St. Lawrence River, and it was 40 feet in depth, and it was next to Nicolas Dupuis and Jean Poliquin. So this was a really neat, very neat find for me. I was like, oh, look at this. So sometimes you Google and you never know what's going to come up. Family would begin. They would have 4 children in all. Marie would marry Jean Duprat and would not have any children. Etienne would die after the 1681 census. Jean would live to at least the age of 34, but we do not have any further information on him. And we have Pierre, who died in 1682 at the age of 1. Now, in the 1681 census, I want to draw your attention to the fact there is an error. We have Louis and Madeleine are listed, and their children. Marie is there, Etienne, but suddenly there's someone named Madeleine, who's 3 years old. That would actually account for Jean. So that is, sometimes you have to just sort of say, well, they made an error. They goofed. Because obviously there is no Madeleine that we know of. Pierre would not have been born at the time of the census. So, and they have 1 cow, and they own about 4 arpents, which is about 2 acres of land. Louis would die sometime between July and August of 1681. So shortly after that census was taken was the death of Louis, who was at best 40 years of age. He and Marie-Madeleine would have been married at best 9 years, a very, very short time. Let's see what happens next to our fille du roi. As so often happens in New France, one man dies and another arrives. Let's see who the second man is. The second groom is Pierre Chaussé dit LeMay. He was born in 1651 in Maillet, France. His parents were Claude Chaussé and Catherine Gauthier. Now you can see on the map that he is actually from the region of France known as Centre-Val de Loire, and inside that region we have the département, or county if you want to call it that, of Indre-et-Loire, and that is where Maillet is found. Maillet has existed since time immemorial, actually, and we have found in digging definitely indications that there were people dating or life as far back as 50,000 to 100,000 years ago, and we know that it was part of the earliest parts of the Roman Empire. The first lords of Mailly appear as early as the 11th century as part of the local power network of the Counts of Anjou. And eventually they would become the vassals of the Counts of Blois, those of you who are into French history. The original chateau was destroyed at the end of the 11th century in a war between Anjou and Touraine. It was then rebuilt in the early 12th. And obviously over time, Mailly was really an area of very wealthy merchants. People would come there. There was beauty. There was definitely a sense of beauty in the area. All that was shattered in 1944 when a terrible, terrible massacre occurred where 124 of the 500 residents of the commune of Mailly were killed by the Germans. And out of that 124, 48 children were killed. And this picture on the right is it's just an embodiment of the monument that exists there to this extraordinary event that took place. Just a horrendous part of history. And the fact that Mailly has remained and is still there is a testament to the strength and endurance of these people. So it was just very fascinating to find out so much about this particular place that Pierre is from. So we find Pierre in New France as of 1670. He probably came as an engagé. And we also know that he had a bride in mind. In 1679, he formed a contract with a lady named Barbe Renaud, but it was annulled. And so Marie-Madeleine becomes his first wife in 1681, where they would eventually settle at Lauzon. Let's have a look. Lauzon had been settled back in 1636 by a man named, obviously, Lauzon, who was basically an absentee seigneur. His son, Jean de Lauzon, would actually take it over in 1651 and have it for about another 10 years. And then the third son, Charles de Lauzon, would take it over and would have it for about 30 years. It is during his tenure that Lauzon grew and became a true place to call home. These maps are amazing when you see the Lauzon and how it grew. One of the principal peoples who founded this town was Guillaume Couture, which is, of course, nothing to do with, our particular storyline today, but it's important that you know, especially if this is your ancestry. Guillaume Couture was part of the evolution of Lauzon. He was a very important man in that area, and so the fact that Marie-Madeleine and Pierre would have been part of that, they would have known him. So it's really important to know not only your ancestry, but the people that they kind of hung out with, if you will, and I always like to know all of that. Now, another thing that's interesting about Lauzon is the fact that it's known by so many different names. We have Cap de Lévis, we have Côte de Lauzon, we have Saint-Joseph de la Pointe Lévis, Saint-Joseph de Lévis, Point Lévis, and Point Levi. The last one, I think, happened after the British took over and they anglicized the name. He would go on to have 6 children. Louise would marry Jean-Baptiste Leroux and have 14 children, 8 of whom would make it to adulthood. Wait a minute. Marie-Madeleine would die December 10, 1700. She was only 48 years of age, a very tragic early loss. She and her second husband, Pierre, had been married 19 years, and she would leave 53 descendants. Pierre would outlive her only by 3 months, dying in the hospital and being buried there on March 19, 1701. So they died within 3 months of each other. Just absolutely, it was a love match. There is no doubt in my mind. For those of you who read French, La Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi published 5 or 6 books, and I'm happy to say I have them all. I was gifted that one Christmas. And Les Filles du Roi, Pionnières des Seigneuries de la Côte du Sud, it actually includes our heroine here, Marie-Madeleine Selle, and you can read up about her in the chapter dedicated to her. I've included the link in the notes for you to have a look at her life and her descendancy. So have a look at that book. It really does list a lot of different people who were from that area. Here are some of the resources that I use, and I just finished recommending that book from La Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi. I have listed the link for that website for you to have a look at. I haven't talked about it lately, Les Filles du Roi Descendants, the Facebook group. Fabulous. It kind of got me started in terms of connections and all of that way back when. So definitely a good place to hang your hat if Facebook is what you do. It's definitely I think they're up to 6,000 members right now, so definitely a very good place to find fellow cousins, if you will. And so ends episode 238. Marie-Madeleine Selle was truly a woman who was strong and defiant and came from the beautiful city of Paris, truly the heart of Paris, and settled in places Cap Saint-Claude, which was just barely getting started, and then went to Lauzon with her second husband. She wasn't afraid of a challenge, and we are grateful that she came to our shores, and we bless her memory. And we are ever thankful that she made it through so that her descendants would also make it through. And I am also very grateful to my supporters and patrons and subscribers. You all play a part in making certain that I carry on my mission of doing all the Filles du Roi profiles. So thank you to all of you. And until I see you on episode 239, au revoir.